Welcome to the episode. I'm so excited to have Liza with us today, and I'm gonna have her introduce herself. She has an awesome podcast, Wonders and Miracles. So welcome, Liza.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's fun to interview with another fellow podcaster.
No
Makes it fun.
pressure.
I know. Makes it fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fun. And I've had you on my podcast.
Yes,
It was
thank you. That
fun.
was so fun.
Yes. So my name's Liza, and I run a podcast called Wonders and Miracles. And this sort of started, I've been running it for about 2 years now.
Wow, has it been that long?
Yeah, I'm
Wow.
almost finishing up my second season, so that's fun.
Awesome.
But it sort of came out of the blue. It was not on my radar to start a podcast at all. Yeah. And I've always been into spirituality, and I've loved in life seeing where God has touched my life and other people's lives, and I've loved sharing those things. Like it's one of my joys to be like, guess what God just did in my life.
I love that.
So that's always been a joy of mine and a passion of mine, but never on a public level. Like, I'm going to start a podcast. And so
share with the world.
But I've always wanted to promote light and promote goodness. And so one day I was meditating. This is how it started. I'll just share the story of how my podcast started. I was meditating, and I have kind of a complex spiritual practice where I'll meditate. And I think at this point in my life, I was meditating for about an hour a day.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah,
like this
you're
was
good,
a beautiful
girl.
time.
Yeah.
I don't do it currently. That's not my current practice. Now it's maybe 10 minutes if I can get 10 minutes in there. But at that time, it was a long meditation, and I'd really get in the zone. And so I was really in that zone where I was clear, I was calm, and I just offered up a question, a prayer of, Heavenly Father, what do you want me to be doing with my time right now? How can I be of service, and what can I offer right now? And a very clear inspiration was, I want you to share miracle stories in the podcast format.
Like that word came to your mind, like podcast.
And it was shocking.
Wow.
Yes, because number one, I didn't listen to a lot of podcasts. It wasn't like I was familiar with that technology or the format. I wasn't. I knew what they were, but I wasn't like a consumer of podcasts.
Sure.
So it was kind of shocking. Like, wait, what? You want me to run a podcast? How do you even do such a thing? Like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And so I shared it with my husband and said, I think I need to start a podcast. And I loved the idea of sharing God stories, like miracle stories, and bringing light. Like, that excited me.
Yeah.
The whole podcast part was an unknown that was a little bit
like daunting or something. Yeah.
Very daunting. Yeah. Yes. Overwhelming. I didn't know that avenue at all. So he said, oh, my husband's cute because he's way more techie than I am. And he knows that I'm not techie at all. Like, I've just struggled. And so he's like, well, maybe you could take a course on podcasting and learn how to do it. And I was like, I love that. And I'm a quick learner.
Yeah.
And
when you're a teacher, so you get that.
Yep. And so I know what it takes to learn a skill and to really get in there. And I love learning. So I thought, okay, I'll take a podcasting class, see if I can figure out the whole technology stuff. And I think I started that class in April. And then I started recording my first episodes in June. And what was fun was it really was a lot of technology to learn how to edit and to host on Libsyn and to get all these ID3 tags and the RSS feed. Like, there's all these things that I'm like, I don't even know what those things are.
Right.
And, but I learned all of them. And I think, what I love now, like with your podcast, it's raw. You don't do a lot of editing, which makes it so nice to just throw it on out there. And for mine, I had all the editing equipment, and I thought, I want to learn all this.
I think it's great. Well, and what you can do is you can interview people you don't know. And I can't, because I can't edit it. So I need to be with somebody who I know well, who I understand, because I can't go back and say, oh, let's tweak this or let's put this part out. It's just like,
Here we go.
right?
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah. Which makes it fun though too, because
Yeah.
it's so authentic. I love that. But yes, I interview people from all over.
Which is awesome.
It's so much fun to hear, people of different faiths, people with different backgrounds, and we can do a lot of fun editing, and it has been a joy to meet so many people.
It's awesome.
And really been fun that way. So that's how my podcast started, and I've really grown a ton just learning those skills. And it was funny, my husband said, probably right when I was getting ready to launch the first episode, he said, I cannot believe that you actually stuck with this, and that you actually
you're like, ouch.
I know, this whole thing out, like you didn't give up. And I said, I know I didn't give up, because God told me to do this.
So I'm not going back out.
Yeah. And so whenever I do something in life, it's if I have God behind me, if I have him on my side, it's like, I'll figure a way out. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to do it. And it really has been my joy to interview people and to hear their beautiful stories, and including yours. I loved yours. It was on your mission. And
you're nice. That was fun to share.
Mm-hmm.
I love too that your focus is very like feeling God in your life and finding miracles. It's good too to have that reflection, like whenever I listen to your episodes, I'm always like, oh, I forget about those little things that become big things later, but at the moment you're like, you forget about them, or you don't think they're significant. But I love that you point people toward God with these little things mean something, I think that's awesome.
Thank you. I've loved that, because I do see that those little tiny things are huge in our lives. Like, they are God there helping us. And I think that's, a valuable message, especially right now, if things feel hard or heavy, just knowing that there are people in heaven that have your back, that are helping us. And if we paid attention to them, we would notice them.
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is we don't take time to notice, wow, that was a little gift from heaven, or that little insight just helped me with this bigger thing. And that didn't come from me. That came from a higher place.
Yeah, that wasn't an accident. Right.
No, it wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't just luck. So I love sharing those kinds of things.
And one of my favorite episodes is the one with your sister-in-law and the horse.
Oh, I know.
Maybe you could kind of give a recap of her story. Definitely go listen to that one. I forget which episode is it.
It was my second episode.
Okay, it's the second one.
She was actually my very first interview, because her story is so beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
I said, Sheila, can I please start with yours, because it is amazing.
Yeah.
And so that's episode number 2. And
because basically wasn't she out kind of in the middle of nowhere on her property on a horse and got bucked off, right?
Yeah. And then trampled by her horse.
Yes. And her dog was with her.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so her dog, so she got trampled and was internally bleeding, like she was dying. And she told her dog to go get help. And her dog was just a puppy, and basically said, go get help. They literally, her ranch is like 55,000 acres, like huge.
She was in the middle of
nowhere. And so her dog ran off, and she was there truly dying, like internally bleeding. She was not going to survive. And at one point she kind of went under, and she saw her dad, who had passed.
Right?
Yeah, and he had been dead for 7 years, so he'd been passed for that long. And he came to her and said, "Get up, get up and keep going. Like he wasn't, and she says it was cute that she was like, Dad, how are you?
And
Like
he
she
was
wanted
like,
to
get
have
up.
this, and he was so stern, like
Yeah.
get up
Yeah.
and keep going. And it was sort of, and that would have been how her dad was. Like he was a police officer, he was a hunter, he was a tough guy,
Yeah.
like just don't feel sorry for yourself,
Yeah.
just get up and keep going. So she did, and it motivated her to just keep walking towards the dirt road. And finally, she saw a truck passing, and it stopped, but it didn't stop because it saw her. It stopped because it saw her dog.
Oh my gosh.
Her dog had stopped at the road and was there, and the man got out and wondered what this dog was doing out in the middle of nowhere all alone.
And then
And
saw
then
her.
he saw Sheila in the
Oh
in
my
the field.
gosh.
Isn't that crazy?
Well, because didn't she like drag herself?
She dragged
She was
herself
just
to
dragging herself.
to the road, trying to get there. And so he was able to help her get into his truck and then get to the hospital. And truly her injuries were intense, like lacerated liver,
No.
kidneys, like so many broken bones.
And
she
that
was
little pup, like her
Yep.
dad and that dog, like saved her. And like that was a brand new puppy. It wasn't like this dog was fully trained, knew what to
No,
do.
no. And the really fascinating part with that, the end of the story, was this dog so stayed with her all summer while she healed on her bed. He was a
No.
very loyal dog to Sheila, but he died at the end of the summer from
No.
from the same disease her dad died of, which was a rare autonomic immune function disease.
No.
Crazy, huh?
You are kidding me. I did not know the
Yeah.
rest of the story. So he wasn't that old, the dog.
No, not that old. Like maybe a year.
He was just
And
meant to save her and be with her.
yeah,
Oh.
crazy, huh? Isn't that a great story?
Oh,
So
I just have
all these little
goosebumps.
things, I know. And all of them are like that, where you
Yeah.
look at just those little things that were like, that was not a coincidence.
Yeah.
Like God was directly involved in saving her life that day.
Yeah. Well, what I love about Sheila's story too is she is not like, is it true? She's not very like religious per se, but she believes in like a higher power, but it's not like she's like a staunch Catholic or,
Right.
goes regularly to church, but like this experience like stayed with her.
Right.
Of course,
Yeah.
she almost died, but that she recognizes there was higher power involved.
Yes. And she is a spiritual person, and she prays and she has spiritual practice, but no, she's not active in a religion or a faith. And
I love that though.
Mhm.
That
I do
like,
too.
I think it shows too, like anyone, whatever walks of life can see and feel miracles. It doesn't matter if you're a believer or not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just a matter of like, do you recognize them and
Yeah.
and see them for the miracle they are?
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. And I love even just little miracles, like those daily things where, you find a book all of a sudden sitting out on your couch where you're like, oh, I need the message in that book. And
Right.
I believe those are divine things, where it was like, why was that book sitting there at the exact time that I was praying for the same thing that book had a message about?
Right.
Like
Right.
little things like that, where I feel like we're being guided all the time. And if we pay attention to those, I think we'll have more reason to feel joy and gratitude and all those beautiful emotions, and to feel loved. Like God knows me. He sees me, and he knows what I need and what my heart needs right now. And so even if they're so small and simple, I love to celebrate them.
I love that. Well, even the other day I was talking to Steve and he's like, have you prayed about this struggle? Like, are you? And I'm like, God has enough to worry about with COVID right now. I'm not going to bug him about my dumb thing. And he's like, it might, you are his child. And I'm just like, still fighting it. Like, there's enough people struggling in the world. My dumb problem. He doesn't want to hear it. But like, the truth is he does. And I don't understand why, but for whatever reason, he does.
Right. He does. And what I love too is he's not limited to, well, I can only answer 10 people's prayers today. And I I can only hear, 100 requests and then the rest I can't,
Right.
like he is infinite, and
Yeah.
the ability to hear all of us,
Yeah.
I can't comprehend.
No.
But yes, he does want to hear
Yeah.
from you because you are his child and he does care what you're struggling with and he
Yeah.
can help in that struggle. And so, yes, I love that. And I'm glad Steve knows that and that you know that to say,
Well, I do know it, but I push against it.
I know.
I'm
I do
always like,
too.
I know. And then I don't go to him, right? I'll
Right.
solve it on my own. And then I just make it worse.
Right. I think we do that. Yep.
Right.
I've got it under control. Yeah.
So, have you had quite a few people, like, how have people found you to share their stories with you?
Yeah, so it is a variety. I have a lot of people that refer people. They'll know someone who's been going through
Cool.
something or had a miracle in their life, and so they'll refer them, and I love that. They'll also just find me on my website. I, and that's really fun when you
That's
get a
fun.
random person that I've never heard of before and don't know personally or through a connection that wants to share their miracle story. So they can submit a story on my website, which is wondersandmiracles.com.
Cool.
And
And I'll put
just
that in the comments. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. And just go submit a miracle story because even if you think they're not big, some people get intimidated thinking, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Right. No angels came down. Yeah.
Right, right. They are big to you, and I will celebrate those with you. And I
Love
invite you to
that.
share those because I want to hear those stories, and I know
Yeah.
others do too because it keeps us in an uplifted mindset.
Yeah.
It keeps us in those times when we're like, oh, that was beautiful, that was wonderful, and so I think in the world today there is so much confusion and darkness and
Sure.
negative, on the news and all the bad things we hear so much about, that we actually need to make time and seek out things of light.
Yeah, I love that.
Seek those things that are going to lift us, and sharing, even if they're just beautiful feel good stories,
Yeah.
they're worth your
Or
time.
funny memes.
Yeah, yes, things that make you laugh.
Yeah.
Laughter is a
Just
great
joy.
high vibration that we feel better when we're in.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like that's the purpose of my podcast personally, is to lift others and call attention to the light. Like there are good things happening
That's
and we need
awesome.
to focus on them and see them.
Well, and I love too that if someone shares like a shorter story or, a longer story, you edit that to put a couple people's story together that are similar or have
Hmm.
similar threads.
Hmm.
And then so you do really great at like highlighting all types of miracles so that you don't have to be intimidated to share if it's long or short or, yeah, love that. That's a
Thank
gift
you.
you have, girl. That's a gift.
Well, I don't know. It's been amazing as I've done this. God has worked through me.
That's
I've been
awesome.
shocked when I'm like, oh, that story is perfect with this story. And it just seems to flow.
I
And I
love
don't take
that.
credit for that. I
Well,
think
and
that's higher.
you've even said on your podcast a number of times, like, I needed one more story to make this complete for the episode. And like somebody came to mind or someone called me to make it come together.
It
I
happens
love that.
all the time. It's a beautiful process. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what kind of reception have you gotten since you started?
I think mostly just positive.
That's awesome.
Hopefully, maybe people are just being nice, like, we love your podcast. But no, I think the feedback that I've gotten is it's benefiting people and they
That's
do
great.
love listening. I put them out every Monday, call it Miracle Mondays. And so it
Love
just
that.
is their Monday miracle that sets the week off. And I've had so many people reach out and say, thank you for doing what
I
you're
love
doing.
that.
So, it makes me feel so happy to know that the work I'm putting into an episode is benefiting someone else. And
I
so,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Well, there's been a few times, like especially in the beginning, um, where I would be like waiting up to 11:59 so that when it hit 12, I was hoping that's when the Miracle Monday would like post, and I'd be like, ah!
That's funny.
So I love that. I think you're definitely like sharing so much goodness, and we need goodness, especially now with all of this crazy world shut down.
Mm-hmm.
What do we believe is true? How do we make plans, but focus on the
Mm-hmm.
miracles? I love that.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
have been some of the challenges? Like if you were to give advice to someone who wanted to start a podcast, who felt kind of that inner call to like share, what advice would you give like to work through the challenges?
So I think it would depend on what your goals are. For me, the biggest challenges were technology,
Yeah.
but just because I'm not so up to date on technology. For example, like you can throw on a video and not worry about editing and just go for it. And I think that's awesome because that's such an easy way to get into it.
Sure. Well,
Um,
that's nice. Yeah.
if you want to do more of the technology stuff,
Yeah.
that would be harder,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think,
for sure. Oh, for
you know,
sure. Yeah,
at
I'm
least
not
for me.
there. I'm not there.
Well, and it's a time commitment,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay, how much time do I have to really commit to doing this every
Yeah.
week or,
Yeah.
once a month? And so another thing I would say is, can you commit to a regular schedule?
Right. And mine doesn't. And I think
That's
that's great
hard.
that yours is predictable. You know, every Monday a new episode will come out. You're staying top of mind, you know.
Well, and for me, I work better on a schedule.
Yeah,
If it's too random for me, I'll forget about it and not
sure.
do it. And so for me, I had to make myself a schedule and a commitment, and then I knew I would follow through.
Love that.
And so other challenges, sometimes it has been hard to find people to interview on a consistent basis, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's just like it would flow and I'd get so many submissions. So that's been another challenge. You can't really regulate when you are on a structured schedule.
Sure.
If you're
Like,
like,
am I
I
going
don't
to have
have,
content? Yeah.
yeah, do I
Yeah.
have an interview this week? I don't know. you
Right.
know so that's been another challenge that I had to work through. And usually I'll pray, like, send me a story, and
Love
last
that.
minute there it comes. So yeah.
Well, and there's been a few times too when you'll get on, or one of your kids will get on and share a story, or your show. And I love that because it's like you're still wanting to pass on the miracles too,
Hmm.
you know? I
Hmm.
think that's so great.
Yeah. And I think my next episode for the next week's going to be a personal one because we
Cool.
just had an awesome big miracle happen in our life. So I'll share it. Sheldon,
Yeah,
my
give us a
husband said,
teaser.
I know, my husband said, that's not, nobody else can relate to that. That's not a big miracle. And I'm like, it was huge for me. Like,
Yeah.
this is a big
Yeah.
personal miracle. The miracle, a teaser, was we've been building a house and we've been living in a double wide trailer right now. And we bought it in hopes that we could resell it and then
Sure.
put that cash into our house when it was done. But with the shutdown, with COVID, the shutdown of our university here in town, which is really the
A
main
heart.
source
Yeah.
of income and our economy, none of the students are coming back into town. And the student population would be who would live in the trailer park. And that's
Mm.
typically who buys trailers. So it didn't look like we were going to be able to sell it, and we did. And so I'll give you all the details in my podcast.
Yay. On Monday,
because
tune
it
in.
yeah, because it was, for us, it was a real big personal miracle. So
Love that.
anyway.
Love that. And your podcast is on the podcast app. What are all of the
So
Spotify?
Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher,
Cool.
YouTube. I don't do all of them on YouTube. Mostly the ones that I just video, I'll throw onto YouTube.
Oh,
There
you
are
do? Okay.
my first seasons, excuse me, are all on YouTube. But second season, they did a switch on YouTube. And so only the
Yeah.
videos are going up there. So if we just do an audio interview, it'll only be on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify.
Okay, cool. I didn't know you had the video feature, so I'm going to go check that out because
Yeah.
that's fun too for people to share once they've had an interview. You know, like I can go on and be like,
Check
hey,
this out.
add
Mm-hmm.
this to my blog. Like, check this out. This was,
Yeah.
yeah. And I love
Yeah.
that idea too of, especially as women, like being able to help each other that way, you know, tagging each other and
Yes.
promoting each other and helping build that community of women who help each other in our in our projects, in our businesses, you know, love
And I
that.
think women are so good at that,
We are good at that.
supporting each other. I know. I love
Yeah.
that about women.
Yeah. Well, and now with technology, I think it's just brilliant how we can do that better
Yeah.
and even more. And we don't have to have the fancy equipment or the huge, you know,
Right.
invested thing. We can just use the resources we have.
Yeah.
You
Isn't that
know,
awesome? I
love it.
know. Yeah. I
I
love
love
it
it.
too. hmm
Well, awesome. This has been so fun. Do you have any last words you want to share before we close?
No,
Any
this
last thoughts?
has
Okay.
been, I know this has been so fun. I just do love connecting with you, Alicia.
It's been so fun. Well, and if you don't know, I interviewed Sheldon, her husband, on one of the other episodes. He was the first male on the episode. He
That's right.
represented.
Right.
But Liza and I met through Sheldon, who was, you know, the at BYU Idaho, one of my teachers, and got to be friends with your family, and then we've just stayed
Yeah.
friends. You guys were awesome to host us when we were dating, and
I
it
know.
came through.
I know we loved your whole story. You'd cry in Sheldon's office about dating and marriage, and we loved Steve right from the beginning.
You
It was
guys were
great.
awesome. Well, and we were talking about this on the other episode, like that night we were in the driveway running the engine till all hours, which I feel so bad we kept you up. But I swear, I'm saying it publicly, we were not making out. We were seriously talking because of the stinking rules at BYU Idaho where you couldn't be anywhere alone but the car.
I love that. And even if you were making out, that would have been okay, Alicia.
You guys are all like, what is going on in our driveway?
Oh, Sheldon and I made out a lot in cars. It's okay. We know the game.
I love this. I love this. Oh, well, thanks so much, Liza. I will make sure to put your links and check out Wonders and Miracles,
Awesome.
everyone. Thanks
Thanks,
so much.
Alicia. This has been
See ya.
fun. See